"Please, don't hurt me. I can't walk." Her voice broke in the damp alley where the smell of garbage mixed with rain, and the headlights behind her cut a cold, white streak across mossy bricks. The man's shadow stretched up the wall like an animal ready to pounce. Each of his steps splashed water hard against the ground. The woman curled up her white suit, stained with mud-blonde hair, plastered to her cheek, left ankle swollen and twisted like a broken doorknob. She clutched the only thing still firm in her hands, a laptop pressed tight against her chest like a life raft in a flood. "Please, don't!" At the end of the alley, a deep voice called out, calm but sharp, "Step away from her. Now!" The man froze. The beam of a car light swung around, revealing a tall black man in a worn jacket, holding a little girl in a yellow raincoat. His face was dark and warm, his features steady, someone used to standing in fire. He set the girl down and said quietly, "Lily, stay here." She nodded, clutching a stuffed rabbit to her chest. The man stepped into the alley not aggressively, just steadily. His eyes locked on the attacker, neither angry nor afraid, just sure. It was the kind of certainty that made others remember who they were. No one touched anyone, no punches were thrown. There was only the silence of someone strong enough not to need noise. The man backed off one step, then another, and slipped into the dark like he was never there. Thunder rumbled far away. From the alley's edge, the girl whispered, "Daddy, is she dead?" The man shook his head, kneeling beside the woman. "You're safe now. Let me help you up." She looked at him, lips trembling, tears spilling before words could form. I can't walk. My ankle." "I know," he said, sliding his arms under her back and knees. The laptop stayed clutched against her chest like a condition for trust. He lifted her gently, stepping through puddles as if carrying someone out of a burning building. The stairs to his apartment were narrow walls, chipped the hallway light, flickering like an old movie. The third-floor door clicked open to the smell of detergent and ginger. "Lie down," he said, setting her on the couch, pulling an old butt-clean quilt over her. Lily tiptoed in yellow boots, squeaking on the wood floor. She stared at the woman with an unchildlike seriousness. "Why are you crying like I do when I miss Mommy?" The woman bit her lip and turned away. The man, Tyler Carter, a black single dad, placed his hand on his daughter's shoulder. "She's just had a bad day, Lily." Lily nodded, hugging her rabbit tighter, then ran to her room. Tyler came back with a dry towel and knelt to check her ankle. His hands were big, warm, and careful, like someone who'd done this 1,000 times. Isabel," she whispered as if reminding herself. "Isabel Monroe." "Tyler," he replied, wrapping a temporary bandage. "Don't move. I'll make you some tea." The kettle hissed. The scent of ginger filled the small kitchen. Steam blurred the window. He brought her a chipped ceramic cup, blew over the surface, and handed it to her. Slow sips. Isabel took one. The hot ginger slid down her throat like the last ray of sunlight in a long day. Rain eased into silence. The city exhaled. Isabel woke sometime later, unsure when. The room was dim and warm. The thin line of hallway light painted a stripe across the floor. She tried to stand the laptop under her arm, biting back a groan as her good foot touched the ground. By the door, her shoes were cleaned of mud, dried the loosened sole, stitched neatly with even threads. Beside them, a folded cloth and a note. "Your foot's not ready. Stay. You're safe. Tea." She stared at the handwriting until her eyes burned again. No conditions, no price, no questions. She sat down on the floor laptop by her side note, trembling in her fingers. Her life had been contracts, strategies, and clauses designed to lock doors. Yet here was a stranger who stitched Soul's brewed tea and left a note as a seal of safety. She leaned against the wall, covering her face, letting the tears fall legally this time as part of recovery. In the next room, Lily turned over in her sleep, her rabbit thumping softly to the floor, and Tyler pulled the blanket back over her gentle fabric sounds in the quiet. Near dawn, Isabel drifted off. For the first time in months, her dreams held no boardrooms, no David's sideways glance over wine, no threats to sign anything behind locked hotel doors. Only dripping rain outside the window, fading ginger in the air, a man's steady breathing through the thin wall, and the weight of a laptop that suddenly didn't feel like armor. Morning light crept through the curtains. Isabel opened her eyes. The old sofa, the coarse fabric drapes, the crayon drawings taped on the fridge flowers, rainbow stick figures holding hands. She realized the world wasn't only glass and steel high floors and private elevators. There were also smaller places, patched and humble, where people spoke through ginger tea thread and handwritten notes. She set the laptop down, exhaled. "All right," she whispered to herself. "I'll stay for a while." The kitchen door opened softly. Tyler came out with warm water and a fresh roll of bandage. "Morning," he said. "Let's see that ankle." Isabel nodded, wordless, letting him lift her foot. Each turn of white gauze rolled steady under his palms. "Ever had someone wrap your ankle?" before he asked casually, like talking about the weather. "No," she said. "People usually send me to a spa." Tyler smiled. "No spa here, just clean water, ginger, and hands trying not to shake." Isabel's lips curved, light, breaking softly across her lashes. Lily peeked out hair, frizzy pajamas dotted with stars. She ran up and placed a drawing on Isabel's lap, 3 stick figures, one tall, one small, and one with yellow hair left uncolored. "I kept that space empty for a long time," Lily said seriously. "For someone who belongs. I think it's you." Isabel looked at the drawing, then at Tyler. He said nothing. She pressed the paper to her chest, and something inside her long trapped behind contracts, corporate eyes, and linen dinners finally unbuttoned. "Thank you," she whispered, voice raw but clear, "for giving me a place." Lily tilted her head. "Then you'll stay for pancakes Daddy can cook, but I think yours would taste different." Tyler laughed, the sound filling the apartment like late sunshine, pushing away the last damp echoes of the stormed alley. To answer the question, no one spoke aloud. Isabel took another sip of ginger tea and nodded. "Okay," she said, "I'll stay for a while." And somewhere in the stitched sole of her shoe, a new road began to close its seams tight enough to take another step, even on one foot. Monday morning, Tyler's small kitchen felt like a field clinic where the medicine was scent, ginger, flour, butter, and steam. Isabel sat on a chair, her left foot propped on a stool while Tyler changed the bandage. Each time he touched her ankle, she could hear parts of her old life slipping away, late-night meetings that never ended, urgent emails that were really just power plays. Her father's calm voice saying marriage to David was a necessary step-up. "Breathe," Tyler said. 1, 2, 3. She followed his rhythm. The bandage tightened but didn't trap her. "I used to be a firefighter paramedic," he said, as if mentioning an old pair of boots. "You learn to keep your hands steady even when your heart isn't." Pancake time wasn't ruled by clocks, but by Lily's decree. She dragged a chair close to the stove and announced, "You flip it when the bubbles show." "If you flip early, it breaks like my heart when Mommy left." Isabel flinched, but Lily quickly added, "But I have Daddy, and maybe you, so my heart's glued back now." Tyler turned away, pretending to search for a spoon so the adults could have a second to wipe their eyes. Isabel's first flip ended in disaster. The pancake folded batter spilling like a half-written apology. The second burned black curling like scorched paperwork. "This one's yours," Tyler said, sliding it to her plate. All 3 laughed free, unguarded, the kind of laughter that works better than any painkiller. After breakfast, Lily took out her crayons. Today I'll fill the empty space, she declared. Patch it with purple. Isabel watched her bold, fearless strokes and thought of how many years she'd lived only to be proper. Why purple? Because purple is for people who are brave without yelling, Lily answered, as if quoting a secret 6-year-old scripture. Tyler winked at Isabel. You heard the art director. Then came walking practice. Tyler offered his left arm for her to hold his right hand steady under her shoulder blade. 1 step, he said. Stop. Breathe. She closed her eyes. 1. Breathe. Balance. The wood floor creaked under each motion, but her pulse found its calm. How do you not rush people? She asked. Because no one walks faster than their wounds, Tyler replied. We just move at their pace. The words lay between them like a neatly folded blanket. By noon, the window was cracked open, the sounds of the street mixing with the scratch of crayons on paper. Isabel picked up her torn jacket from the night before and stared at the rip on the shoulder. Tyler handed her a small tin of sewing needles and spools of thread in every color. Want to try? I've never sewn anything. Then today you start. Her first stitches were crooked, then steadied, lining up like young trees learning to stand. When something can be fixed, Tyler said, I fix it. If not, I let it be a decent scar. Isabel looked up, meeting his gaze, no pity, no probing, just presence. She bent back over the fabric, realizing that some days the best way to live is to mend an edge, just to know your hands still tremble for a reason. That afternoon, Lily asked, Can you tell me a story you like? Isabel hesitated. She'd never told a story that didn't have a purpose. Once she began, I thought I had to climb very high to see the ocean. And did you? I did. Isabel smiled. But it was below all along, a small balcony, a flower pot, a messy kitchen, and someone waiting for me to come home. Lily nodded, as if she understood perfectly. Then stay and we'll watch the ocean together. Isabel didn't promise what a child deserved, but she took Lily's drawing and signed her name in the corner, a tiny promise to herself. At night, they watched car lights drift past the thin curtains. The TV was off. Between them lay the laptop, heavy as a stone on her chest. David will look for you. Tyler said, not a threat, just a fact, like weather. I know, Isabel replied. I'm scared, but not just of him. I'm scared of going back, of the person I was. Tyler was quiet. His hand brushed her wrist right over her pulse. When you're afraid, he said softly, drink ginger tea. When you're done being afraid, sleep. Tomorrow we'll wait. Isabel leaned her head on his shoulder. His heartbeat ticked like a clock that never lied. Near midnight, intrusion came, first the phone ringing in the hall, then knocking, then footsteps stopping outside the door. A woman's sharp voice sliced the silence. Isabel Monroe, we represent the board. Tyler pulled the curtain aside. A black car, a camera, a man with a tie too tight. Lily woke up blinking. Why are they standing at the door? They're lost, Isabel said calmly. By morning, they'll find their way back. Messages poured in like hail reinstatement offers image rebuild proposals, bonuses big enough to buy new skies. Isabel read them all, closed the laptop, and walked into the kitchen. Tyler was drying a bowl. I'm not going back, she said. You sure? As sure as ginger, she replied. It burns, but it makes you lighter. The next morning, bags were packed quickly. Tyler buckled Lily into her seat. Isabel looked around the apartment one last time, the crayon drawings, the rocking chair, the jacket, now neatly sewn. Let's go, she said. As they drove out of the city, the leaves were turning gold, and the road seemed to hum in a lower, gentler voice. Isabel held the laptop in her arms, lighter than before, because now beside her were hands ready to catch whatever she chose to put down. The white-painted house sat behind a row of birch trees, its wide porch holding an old swing that creaked in the wind. Evelyn Carter, her silver hair neatly tied back, opened the door as the small pickup truck stopped. She didn't ask many questions. Her eyes were like a steaming bowl of soup. "There's fresh bread," she said, "and clean sheets upstairs." Lily darted across the porch like a freed bird, dragging Isabel into the kitchen to introduce her, to every spice jar in the cupboard. Tyler hugged his mother a hug from a son who'd been standing too long in the wind. That first night, Isabel slept like stone. In the morning, Evelyn set a bowl of oatmeal before her, her other hand brushing lightly over the bandage on Isabel's ankle. "Daughter, how bad does it hurt?" "Less now," Isabel replied, startled to be called daughter. "Good. Around here we heal with two things, rest and work. Work, gardening, hanging laundry, mowing grass. When your hands are busy, your heart gets to rest." Isabel smiled. She stepped into the backyard dew, soaking her shoes, sunlight filtering through the leaves like another time zone. Tyler showed her how to lean on his shoulder while walking on uneven ground, each bump like the meetings she'd stumbled through before. "One step," he said. "Stop. Breathe." His voice was so low it seemed to move from bone to bone. That afternoon they sat on the porch, tea in hand. Lily drew another picture, a house, birch trees, 3 people standing in a garden, and a small sign that read, "Welcome." Isabel's fingers trembled, looking at the word so simple, so right. Tyler told a story as if he were talking about the weather without pride. "Once there was a fire. Small house. I was first in. I carried a little girl out." He paused, eyes fixed somewhere beyond the field where sunlight spread honey-thin over the grass. She didn't make it. Isabel held her breath, her hand finding his. "You did everything you could," people always say that he said with a smile that carried no sun, and it always feels a little lighter hearing it. Evelyn left the window cracked. The smell of bread drifted through like a comma in a story that never had a period. Isabel told her story then about the hotel, the door latch, the rain, and the mud-soaked shoes. About David and the contracts she couldn't remember signing with her hand or with her fear. "Sometimes people forget their own names while signing something," Evelyn said, setting down another bowl of soup. "But remembering is as simple as breaking bread." She tore the loaf apart, steam rising from the heart of it, and gave each a piece. Lily asked, "Is your name Isabel or Isabel?" "One L," she said, laughing at the most important question of the day. That evening, Tyler fixed a few wooden steps on the porch while Isabel sat reading old emails on her phone, then deleting them like pulling weeds. She opened a new note titled "Things to Do If I Live Like a Human." The list grew: plant flowers, learn to bake, read to children, call the women she'd once seen crying in office bathrooms. Lily saw it and added, build houses for people who need them. Isabel circled that in red, her first seal of purpose. On the third day, they drove into the nearby town. Tyler bought ropes and bags of soil. Isabel picked packets of marigold and lavender seeds. She asked the shopkeeper how to start them. "Water a little," the woman said. "Love a lot." Isabel nodded, remembering Lily's words about purple. Back home, they staked a small wooden sign in front of the fresh soil bed, Lily's garden. "And Isabel's too," Lily added. "And Dad's," Tyler said. "No," Lily wrinkled her nose. "You're the garden worker." That night, under a sky so full of stars it looked like someone had spilled a basket of salt across black velvet, Tyler and Isabel sat wrapped in one blanket. They asked for no promises, but their small gestures spoke. Isabel handed him tea at just the right time. Tyler pulled the blanket higher when the wind slipped through. Inside, Lily slept with her stuffed rabbit standing guard at her pillow. "I think I'll go back to the city tomorrow," Isabel said. "Not to reclaim my seat, but to lay down what isn't mine." Tyler nodded, eyes on the horizon. "I'll come if you want." "I can go alone," she said with a quiet smile. "But I want somewhere to come back to, "This," Tyler said, gesturing around them, "is that place." One word, but enough to make her feel the ground beneath her feet. The next morning, Evelyn handed Isabel a handkerchief embroidered with the letter I. "For wiping sweat when you tremble," she said. "And to remember sweat is the water of the living." Isabel hugged her, breathing in the scent of flower and lavender, a mother's smell even without shared blood. Before leaving, she paused at the new flower bed, planted a small wooden stick and wrote on it, with a felt-tip pen, "Step, breathe, balance." It was the only sign she needed to carry into a glass building ever again. The hallway stretched like a piano key, each of Isabel's steps a note. She wore low heels, a neat navy blue suit hair tied in a modest bun. No earrings, no jewelry. Her ankle still tugged with every step, a soft reminder, but her back stayed straight. The conference room doors opened glass steel cold light and the kind of glances that measured worth. David Langston sat at the head of the table, tie perfect, smile ironed smooth. "Isabel," he said, voice dripping each word like sugar. "Didn't think you'd have the nerve to show up." A low ripple of whispers ran across the leather chairs like static. Isabel didn't answer. She placed her laptop on the table, opened it, and plugged in the cable. Spreadsheets appeared. Then emails. Memos, a timeline map of doctored transactions. No long speeches, she let the data speak. Someone coughed. A chair creaked. A glass trembled in a shaking hand. She looked around the table, faces she had once sought approval from, faces she had once feared. "I didn't leave because I was weak," she said quietly. "I left to remember who I am." David leaned forward, grabbing the mic. "Do you know what you're risking by doing this?" For the first time, Isabel saw him small. "I know," she said. She pulled a folded paper from her bag and placed it at the center of the table. "My resignation, effective immediately. You're giving it all up," someone gasped. "Your shares, your voting rights. Everything. Everything," Isabel replied as simply as answering a math problem. "I'm not a product, not a brand, not a chip to be traded. I'm a person." On the left, an older shareholder, the one who had once taught her how to stand tall in this very room, bit her lip. "Why, Isabel? Because I refuse to let my name seal a system that makes people beg for safety." When she finished, she closed her laptop. David forced a smile. "You'll regret this." "I'll breathe," she said, "like I'm doing now." She turned and walked out. No one stopped her. The elevator reflected her figure, not a woman carrying a skyscraper on her shoulders anymore, just one holding a small bag, a handkerchief with the letter I in her pocket. The glass doors opened onto an amber-colored afternoon. The air smelled of a season about to change. Isabel stood still for a moment, letting her shoulders drop half an inch, then she walked on. At the corner, a reporter waited. She shook her head gently, no answers needed. There had been enough days of answering. Today required only one call. "It's done," she texted Tyler. The reply came as fast as breath. "Come home." She called a car, not to the penthouse, but to the third-floor apartment with coarse curtains, crayon drawings on the fridge, and a 6-year-old girl who asked questions no one in a boardroom could imagine. On the way, she opened the note on her phone and added one more line to her list. "Things to do if I live like a person. Plant a marigold that once died." She smiled at her own words, a KPI no one could turn into a report. The old stairwell creaked in greeting. The apartment door opened. The smell of flower soap and ginger, she'd missed it. Tyler was on the balcony, hands covered in soil. Lily knelt beside a flower pot, patting the earth as if soothing a child. "Any room in that garden for one more?" Isabel asked, leaning on the doorway, sunlight catching in her hair like threads of gold. Tyler looked up, dark eyes bright, not surprised, as if he'd been saving her a chair all along. Always. Lily ran over, hugging Isabel's leg, leaving a streak of dirt on her pants. "We're planting orange flowers today," she said. "You pick the next one." Isabel knelt, pressing her hand into the soil. It was cool. Her heart was warm. That evening they ate pasta, Three Forks laughter echoing when sauce splattered on Tyler's chin. Lily opened a drawer, pulling out a bracelet made of multicolored threads, knotted with clumsy care. "This is for you," Lily said. "I call it a promise bracelet. Not a wedding ring, but if you want to be an unofficial mom first, then—" The words fell soft as a drop of water, but landed where the ground was driest. Isabel held out her wrist. The bracelet fit perfectly. Tyler looked at it, a small nod that could have silenced any boardroom debate. That night, the city breathed through a cracked window. Isabel lay on the sofa, the embroidered eye under her pillow, the thread bracelet on her wrist. She listened to Lily's steady breathing from the bedroom, the faint clink of a cup in the sink. Tyler's quiet footsteps crossing the floor, gentle as a keeper's watch. Tomorrow, she whispered, we start Lily House. The name, of course, came from Lily. Because flowers bloom when there's sunlight and love, she declared, hands on her hips like a tiny CEO. Isabel laughed, but there was something solemn in her eyes, like a vow. They built a simple website, a light background, photos of joined hands, and a short statement. No one should have to beg to be safe. Tyler edited the photos. Evelyn sent her chicken soup recipe for a section called Warm Recipes Meals that might make someone believe in kitchens again. Isabel called two old friends, the ones who once cried in office bathrooms, and invited them over for tea to discuss a free legal helpline, a mentoring program, and the Step Breathe Balance Fund to cover transport and therapy for people rebuilding their lives. By day, the third-floor apartment turned into a small office. The dining table became a planning desk, and the balcony was where Lily oversaw the growth productivity of their flower beds. Isabel wrote emails in a voice she'd never used as a CEO, the voice that spoke to people not for a brand. Whenever her heart raced from a difficult call, she touched her thread bracelet, took a sip of ginger tea, and reread the little wooden sign on the balcony, Step, Breathe, Balance. The first women arrived like sudden rainstorms. One held her cup with trembling hands. One came with a small suitcase, apologizing as she opened it for her damp socks. One brought a child. Lily sat drawing with that child, handing her a purple crayon and teaching her how to color outside the lines. Isabel listened, never interrupting, then scheduled meetings with volunteer lawyers, guided them to Evelyn's for soup. Tyler replaced a lock on an apartment where someone had lived in fear too long. He came back, carrying a few screws, grinning. Anything that twists tight is safer than what just pushes, he said. That became their second motto. One night, after a long day, Lily brought a new drawing. 3 people standing in a garden of bright orange blooms with more women behind them, each holding a single flower. She titled it Forever Garden. Isabel pinned it next to the fridge right beside the old drawing that once had an empty space now filled with a small girl in a brave purple dress. She realized she had walked a path no boardroom ever mapped, a road that began in a rainy alley, turned into a ginger-scented kitchen, past a birch-shaded porch, stepped through a glass conference room to lay something down, and came back to a balcony no bigger than a palm where a family was stitched together with clumsy, durable thread. Some evenings they made pancakes again. This time, Isabel flipped one perfectly round, golden as a coin. Lily cheered. Tyler clapped. A little flower puffed into his hair. Life's strange, Isabel said while washing dishes. I used to think I had to sign good contracts to feel useful. Turns out, some things are useful without signatures. Tyler placed a dish on the rack, looked at her through the rising steam. Like a hug, for example. Isabel smiled. Like a hug. One afternoon, Isabel received a message from an old number, not David's. It was the older woman who had once guided her at the start of her career. "I saw you that day," the message read. "I wish I'd had your courage." Isabel replied, "It starts with 1 cup of ginger tea." A week later, that woman came to Lily House. She sat down and told a story that could never be told in a boardroom. When she left, she handed Isabel an envelope. "For all the empty spaces that need color." Lily opened it. Inside were boxes of crayons. That weekend, the 3 of them went to the park. Tyler taught Lily to fly a kite. Isabel sat on the grass, watching them run under the sun. The string burned slightly against her palm. It hurt just enough to feel alive. She thought of the women who had come, the children who had laughed, the locks that had been changed, the bandages wrapped around another ankle somewhere. She touched her bracelet and knew she was no longer a brand name, no longer a line on a stock ticker, no longer a chip in someone else's game. She was Isabel with 1 L, someone who could mend a torn seam, brew ginger by hand, and leave a note that said, "Stay. You're safe." At night, when the city slept, they sat on the balcony. Below them, new flowers sprouted. Above them, just enough stars to count. "Are you ever afraid?" Tyler asked. "Yes," Isabel answered honestly, "but now I know what to do with it. Make tea, call someone, hug the girl, sleep. And tomorrow, start again," she smiled. Lily came running out, slipped between them, and pulled a blanket over all 3. "Family sandwich," she murmured, then fell asleep instantly. Tyler and Isabel looked at each other across the short space between them. No promises spoken. Some promises had been knotted long ago. The next morning, Lily placed another drawing on the table. A bigger house. Open doors, many people coming and going. "Lily House when I'm 10, she wrote in the corner. "We'll need lots of kitchens to make lots of soup." Isabel hugged her tears, warming the child's curly hair. She knew there would still be rainy days, other alleys, other knocks on doors. But she also knew that behind every door opened there would be a strong, warm hand to bandage an ankle. A little girl ready to share her space, a bracelet waiting to circle another wrist. And in that way, bit by bit, they would build a world where no one had to beg to be safe. They only had to knock. From a cold, rainy alley to a flower-filled balcony, Isabel had learned to step, breathe, balance, and to choose the family she built herself. Tyler's steady hands, Lily's multicolored bracelet, and Lily House, a place where no one has to beg for safety. The door of power had closed, but another had opened, a small kitchen smelling of ginger tea, laughter over slightly burnt pancakes, and empty spaces finally filled with brave purple. If you were in Isabel's place, would you choose the seat of power, or the house that smells of ginger tea where you're truly seen and loved? If this story touched you, like, share, and subscribe to help us spread kindness and keep telling stories of healing and families we choose.